set auto-destruct sequence.
It's the time allotted that concerns me.
Recognize Picard, Jean-Luc, Captain. Recognize Riker, William T, Commander.
Maximum warp!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Warp Core podcast. I'm Urza Master. Joining me as always, Lord Uther and Fert Derby out of the Q Continuum. Gentlemen, we're back today with the crew of the Strange New Worlds, but we're not going to get the whole crew for most of this episode. And I'm really excited to talk about Terrarium because it's probably one of the more unique episodes that I think we've seen in quite some time. And this one is a callback to an original series episode, but I don't want to get too far out ahead of the ball. Fert Derby, tell us a little more about Terrarium.
Hi, everybody. Yes, on the penultimate episode of Season 3, Star Trek Strange New Worlds, we have the second episode in 3 tries from writer Alan B. McElroy, whom I mentioned, of course, when we covered What is Starfleet? This is the man who wrote Halloween 4 in 11 Days, thanks to that dreaded Writers Guild strike in 1988, which we will be covering in much more detail when we return to the Berman-verse and Star Trek The Next Generation. But this was a solo effort from Mr. McElroy. He co-wrote What is Starfleet, and it's, like I say, I'm always happy to see his name in the credits. And this is directed by Andrew Coots, who is a Canadian film editor and television director. And his biggest credits, non-Trek. He's worked on Discovery, and he's worked on Picard, and now he's worked on Strange New Worlds. And he also edited 2 of the later installments of the Saw franchise, Saw 6 and Saw 3D. And if you made it all the way to those installments of the Saw franchise, congratulations. You have a stronger stomach than some of us. But in any event, this was an Erica Ortegas forward, sort of trying to put a little bit of a neat bow on her season-long struggle with PTSD versus her encounter with the Gorn, which we covered in Hegemony and Hegemony Part 2. Gentlemen, you probably are old enough to remember Robinson Crusoe being mentioned in our schooling, and you certainly can remember Wolfgang Petersen's 1985 underrated sci-fi classic Enemy Mine with Dennis Quaid and Lou Gossett Jr. playing fierce adversaries marooned together on a lifeless planet and forced to rely on each other to survive. Yes. That it is a common science fiction trope. Star Wars Rebels, the animated series from Dave Filoni, has used this. Battlestar Galactica, in their ill-fated 1980 spin-off Galactica 1980, put Dirk Benedict Starbuck on an abandoned world with a Cylon, in which the two had to team up together and I think at one point deliver a baby, which was also weird. But in any event, it's a very familiar setup in order to have 2 enemies reach out beyond the abyss of their differences and work together to survive. And the fact that it's Erica, there's a little bit of The Martian too from Ridley Scott, trying to come up with DIY solutions to survival in a hostile territory. All of that works very well. The Enterprise, meanwhile, is trying to rescue Erica. There's a wormhole, which, of course, we all remember wormholes from Star Trek Deep Space Nine. This one's a little bit more unpredictable and dangerous. We have Uhura doing her best to save her friend, even going so far as to fudge the data. But seeing if she can slip that past Pike and so forth. So it's sort of an Erica Uhura forward episode. We have a Gorn that is more sympathetic than we've previously exposed, giving us the idea that maybe they won't be just xenomorphic teeth and fangs kind of villains. Maybe we can get a little more shading in there. Everything up to the godlike beings that appear at the end of the episode. I won't call it a Deus Ex Machina, but it definitely calls back literally to the original series. And it may or may not color your opinion overall of the episode in terms of how it's resolved. But I have to say, gentlemen, it's a satisfying framework. It has been successful many times in the past, and Star Trek does not do any disservice to it here. And I think it's a good character with Ortegas getting that, chance to shine solo. Gives us more of her personality, her running monologue, and dialogue with the Gorn, and the Gorn being able to even hardwire a communications device so that they can share, so forth. And I have to say, when Lon and the landing party, the away team land, and that storyline is resolved, I blinked back a little bit of moisture from the eyes. Like in that moment, in that isolated moment right there, this was gripping. Erica's reaction and how she must have sounded to the away team, like in terms of, man, she just lost her mind. Like, that was really strong stuff. Whatever you want to say about Metreons and godlike beings and everything else, I think that moment right there was a highlight for me for season 3 as far as encapsulating some emotion there. So nice work on essentially a two-hander in this. And what do you guys think of Terrarium?
Yes, I mean the enemy mine thing was very apparent right off the bat there. So I think that's why I struggled with this one a little bit. I mean, I know what they were getting at.
Right.
My other slight issue, I felt like the episode ended way too quickly. Like there was all this setup, and then all of a sudden, and the wormhole's closing, and Una's like, we got to get out of here. And then it's like, oh wait, we found her. Okay, beam down to the planet. It almost ended too quickly. I was waiting for the payoff that I don't feel like really showed up in a sense. And my final slight issue, and I'm giving you a lot of issues and not a lot of pluses yet. I would have felt better if this was Trelane doing this and not the Metrons. And I know we already had the Q episode this season, but I think it would have been kind of cool if Trelane kind of learned his lesson and now is experimenting a little bit more, trying to understand if humans can be better or if humans can get along with someone who's kind of their natural enemy or something like that. I almost would have liked it a little bit more. I feel like the one thing that's been great about this show is we know it's a prequel and it doesn't continuously try to... It's setting up Star Trek, the original series, without overdoing it. And now I feel like this is almost we're almost over-connecting now to the original series. And so I'm struggling with that just a little bit. Like this episode made it almost too connected, which maybe doesn't make a lot of sense. Or why didn't the Metrons somehow interact with Pike? So I just think that maybe that would have been over-connecting too, right? Like I'm trying to figure this out. So I struggled a little bit with this episode. Yeah, the acting was great and all the different techie things that she came up with was great. I like that Pike knew she was fudging the numbers to go and try and rescue her. I like that. And I continuously say this too. The special effects are so beautiful and amazing. And I don't mind that the interior of the ship doesn't look like the Enterprise. That doesn't bother me. Just like the characters don't really look like the original series characters in a sense. None of that bothers me. I totally buy into it. I have no issue with it. I know with some other series, people have had issues with this isn't Star Trek or like these sets don't look correct. I just totally buy it because it is what it is right now, and they do such a great job with it. So that's kind of my overall thoughts on it. Again, just a couple of issues, I guess.
That's pretty fair. I think the trope of, enemies marooned together who have to rely on each other is a little too apparent. I like that it wasn't too difficult for her to get what was going on, because that would have felt a little more fake. I think the build up, like you said, was great, but the resolution was a little haphazard. And in a sense, it's a very much a mirror to what we see with Kirk and the Gorn when the Metrons do the same thing to him. I like that in a way they're trying to explain canonically why the Gorn look different in the original series, because the Metrons made them that way. Okay, it's a little bit convenient, and I didn't feel the emotional punch. Like when the landing crew got there, weapons ready, I knew basically immediately that was they're gonna kill the Gorn, and then Ortegas is gonna be upset. Like the setup was a little too obvious in my opinion. I think it would have been better if maybe they got the Gorn back and the infection they couldn't stop and the Gorn dies on the table. I would have felt a little more heavy drama impact from that, and I think that's what this episode needed more of, because this was also kind of a goofy, funny episode, and it endeared you to this marooned Gorn with Ortegas, when they were playing chess in the little Gorn game, there was some comic element that made this really great, and then the resolution just sort of left me feeling like, that wasn't enough. They just sort of missed the mark. I love the Metron reveal. That part of it was fine. It probably would have made me feel a little bit better if that would have been okay, now the Enterprise is there, trying to save this Gorn while trying to get back through the wormhole, and that's the resolution, is they have to figure out how to wedge themselves back through because they took some damage or something, and then the Metrons are we're going to send you back through, but we needed to see how this would play out all the way onto the ship, kind of thing, or give us a little bit more. And it didn't have to be anything, we're not talking an extra half hour of the episode here. I mean, this is an extra 2 to 3 minutes, and in a sense, I think, I don't know, I think I enjoyed it more than I thought I would at the time, in a way. I was oh, this seems really predictable, this is kind of a miss, but I still really enjoyed myself, and I think that had you changed, similar to the last episode, you change one little detail and adjust it, again, we're talking 2 to 3 minutes of extra dialogue and filming, and I really think you could have done something here that would have been more impactful.
Is it?
And I don't know, with the past episode being more humorous, that you get enough emotional drama here to warrant having the last episode.
If the Gorn had just died by the campfire, like you say, on the table, if you will, if it isn't Lon shooting it, is that an improvement in the sense? It's just Erica gets that moment with her friend before they show up. I don't know. I hated the fact that Lon, like I said, or Erica sounds like a mad woman. She's been like Tom Hanks in Castaway. She's been marooned and she isn't making any sense. She's crying over an alien that looked like it was going to eat her, according to Lon. I don't know if it's just they have a quieter thing where the infection takes her over. Erica's beyond with grief, and then the transporter beams behind her, and it's Lon and them saying, "Erica, we got to go."
Yeah, I absolutely think so. They survive the explosion. They're coming out of their little heat shield shell, and she's like, "We did it. I think they probably saw that, and then she turns, and now the Gorn's like, taking its last couple breaths. She's like, no, no, not now, not now, and then has the meltdown moment with the Metrons.
Right.
And then the landing party beams down, beams her back up, and she still has the grief. She still has this like crisis of what she believes about the Gorn and her experiences, and it's like that would have been great. Having them just shoot the Gorn, like, it was so predictable, and it seemed like, she came out of the shell first, and could have been like, hey, put the weapons down before you, overreact. There's a Gorn with me, like. Literally, she could have said that,
or stood in front of the Gorn. I
Yeah.
mean, that was my other thing too. I actually was waiting for that, quite frankly. I thought she was going to stand in front, like, "Hey, don't do this."
yeah,
And that did not happen. That caught me off guard more than the "oh wait, pew pew" and it's over. Yeah. By the way, I made the wrong connection with the Metrons, saying that they were connected to Pike. That's my fault. So to me now, it bothers me even more that it's connected to the Kirk episode. It just, well, we don't need to do that. I think it's, again, I think
okay,
we're connecting a little too much.
You're hitting on something that I think has happened in some fans' eyes with our other pending rebrand franchise, the Graying Jedi, and Star Wars. When you do these prequels or you do these, let's go back to the future. And you try to show your fandom appreciation, and you, like you say, they do this a lot in comic books, where literally, we're going to take you up to 5 minutes before the Death Star explodes, and what was going on, and that's cool. In a purely thought process, oh great, but did you need all of those details, right? I'll give you an example just real quick, but it kind of, I think, is articulating what you're saying here, Lord Uther. After Empire Strikes Back, Boba Fett has stolen Han Solo and returned him to Jabba. And then in Return of the Jedi, 3 years later, there's Han hanging on the wall, and Jabba's there, and the rebels have come to rescue him. But the Star Wars comics, about 2 years ago, they did this 10-part miniseries where Boba Fett has Han, and he's left Cloud City, and then Han gets stolen from Boba Fett in Slave One, and like various crime factions throughout the galaxy have his carbonite body, and they're trying to get it to Jabba, and then Boba Fett has to stop them because he wants to collect the bounty, and the rebels are chasing them because they know they can. And there's all of this activity and all of these like cliffhangers and all of this action, and we end up in the exact same place, which is he ends up on the wall in Jabba, and none of that matters to anyone who didn't read the comics. They just saw the movies, and it's like, okay, yep, Jabba got Han, and now they're going to save him. But there's this impulse to say, like, well, let's talk about all the cool things that happened in between there. And like you say, sometimes it just feels like story architecture. It's busy. It's adding levels of complexity or connections that don't necessarily contribute to the bottom line, which is Han's on the wall. And
I kind of like that idea. If they would have had the bounty hunters going after Boba Fett and he picked them off one by one.
right,
I think,
yeah.
does that happen? Because if that happens,
Yeah, no, like Bosk and IG-88 and all. Yeah, they're actually trying to steal Han and get the bounty themselves. Yes, exactly. The miniseries was called like War of the Bounty Hunters or something, But I guess what I'm saying is that it you don't need it, right? I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's cool, but why do we need those connections? Like, why do we need to know that Bosk was trying to kill Boba Fett? I mean, it's just, yeah.
At some point, we need to just stop. We don't need again, we don't need every single little detail. Like, it happened. That's it. That's where we're at. There's other elements, I think, that are more important that they could be exploring in a sense or doing something with, that we don't need to have these ultra connections happening. So that's just kind of my thoughts there.
I agree. I'm one to say I always love more canon, more connections, but I think we finally started to see some of the lines where it's like, do we need a Metrons episode? Did we need 4.5 Vulcans. Did we need this? I mean, it's not bad, but is it really moving the series forward in a way that makes it that much more interesting? I'm not sure. But, gentlemen, 59 years ago, yesterday, there was no Star Trek on TV. Today changed the world. So will our Warp Core ratings confirm that this episode changed the world, or did this episode fall just short of that mark? For Derby, where did you fall on Terrarium?
Well, again, I'm partial to the writer, and I did have moisture in my eye. I'm not going to lie. So for me, this is no different than 4.5 Vulcans as far as how it landed for this viewer. It's a 5 for me. I acknowledge everything that we've discussed here. I don't take any umbrage or issue with those feelings. I liked it. I wrapped my arms around the enemy mine and the Martian references, if you will, and I thought a solid hour of Trek. Maybe not foundational, maybe not on the Mount Rushmore of Strange New World episodes, but certainly not a disrespect or disservice to the franchise overall. Just what you need is just an hour of television that hopefully delivers something, some moment, some thing. And for me, it was a tear.
I'm going 5. Again, good episode. I'm thankful it's out there. I would just like to see us going forward a little bit more. So 5 for me.
I'm going to roll with a 5 as well. Really, it was just that one brief death in the end that just didn't quite hit for me. Everything else about this episode was hitting pretty well. I loved the little centipede creatures. I loved the jokes. I really liked the agree, disagree, and it added exactly the right amount of tension for me. I loved the idea of setting fire to the atmosphere to like smoke signal your Enterprise crew. It had so much and then fell just so short of my expectations. Again, predictable. Like this is, but predictable is not necessarily bad. I can know what's going to happen and still enjoy myself. Strange New Worlds proves that. I know what's going to happen to Captain Christopher Pike. I'm still enjoying myself. That being said, I really look forward to our season finale next week. I'm sure everybody out there in the pending rebrand verse thinks so too. Make sure you're subscribed. Hit that button for notification as well so you know when our episodes drop. And make sure that you're dropping us a comment. What did you think about Terrarium, Hegemony Part 2, Hegemony Part 1, and all of the Gorn episodes? Would you have wanted to see somebody else marooned on this planet, perhaps? Get out there to the comment section and make it so.